If you're not going to walk again, why don't we just cut off your legs? LOL. My Mill said this to my mom, who is working hard on her rehab. I was filled with disbelief and anger, and I immediately confronted my Mill. However, she didn't seem to care about my retort and tried to insult my mom again. I decided to take my mom's hand and leave the scene. When I apologized to my mom for my Mill's behavior, she reassured me, "You don't have to apologize. It doesn't bother me." Seeing my mom like this, I resolved to take revenge on my Mill. My name is Amanda, and I'm 38 years old. I live with my husband, Mark, who is 2 years older than me, and our son Jack, who is in 2nd grade. We live near my mom Emily and Mill Linda, both of whom live alone. My dad and Phil both passed away around the same time a few years ago. Initially, Linda wanted to live with us, but since Emily was in a similar situation, it was deemed unfair. So it was settled that both would live near us, and we'd visit them frequently. For a while, Linda would grumble, "Emily didn't even want to live with you guys. She could have let me." Mark then chided her, "How do you know Emily doesn't want to live with us? Maybe she's just being considerate. You can't force her." Honestly, if Mark hadn't stepped in, I think Linda would have insisted on moving in with us, given her pushy nature. My mom used to say, "I don't need to live with you. We live so close. Just being able to see each other quickly is enough for me." However, I think the loneliness she felt after my dad passed away wasn't that easily filled. I was planning to spend as much time with her as possible. My Mill, on the other hand, started coming to our house quite often, with various excuses like wanting to see Jack or have dinner with us. She'd show up at least every other day. Linda absolutely adores Jack, her grandson. She'd bring his favorite snacks, buy him toys, and try to win him over, but she'd fail every time. The reason is, Jack doesn't like Mill. He knows about the strained relationship between me and Mill from the get-go of our marriage. Mill disliked me. She saw me as the woman who stole her son. Moreover, she once said she couldn't imagine how someone as unremarkable as me could marry her son. I initially wondered why she had to go so far in her criticism, but I guess no matter who my husband brought home, she wouldn't have approved. In my mother-in-law's mind, the image of a woman who could marry her precious only son was probably too high a bar. I decided to stop paying attention to Mill's unkind words. I figured if I let the thoughtless words bother me, it would only drag me down. I also thought time might change Mill's attitude, but that never happened. Mill's mistreatment never seemed to change, no matter how much time passed. It's become worse since she started visiting more often. For instance, during dinner, she'd walk into the kitchen and say, "Oh, this meat and potatoes dish isn't very tasty. Why can't you cook something delicious when I'm here? You'll need to make another dish. I have nothing to eat." After tasting it, even when I make dishes with the same seasoning repeatedly, if my Mill isn't in the mood for it that day, she'll complain and make me prepare another dish, creating extra hassle. On top of that, she never contributes a dime to the grocery bill. My Mill, who visits every other day, eats dinner with us almost every time she's here. This means we need ingredients for 4 people each time she joins us. I've talked to my husband about the grocery expenses before. All right, I'll tell my mom to pitch in for groceries every month, my husband promised. But not long after, my Mill lashed out, "Amanda, I'm tolerating your less than stellar cooking for dinner. I should be charging you for the privilege of feeding me. How dare you ask for grocery money?" My son, Jack, overheard and later commented, "Grandma Linda is really selfish. Huh? That's why I don't like her." I wish she could have heard that. In contrast, my own mom rarely comes to our house. Jack and I usually visit her instead. She's a great cook, and Jack absolutely loves her cooking. Grandma Emily's cooking is really amazing. It's way better than the snacks Grandma Linda buys. Jack usually raves, making my mom so happy that she promises to cook more delicious food for him. Once, my Mel noticed some baked goods my mom had made extra for us. Her reaction, "Jack, what's this? I bought snacks for you today. These are from Grandma Emily. I'm going to eat these today, so I don't need the ones Grandma Linda bought." The way he bluntly dismissed her was priceless. The look on my Mel's face was a mix of despair and anger. I'm pretty sure that's when she started feeling competitive towards my mom. Amidst the usual routine, something happened one day. My mom, like always, went out shopping on her bike. She always followed traffic rules, and even recently started wearing a helmet for safety. Despite that, she got hit by a speeding car from behind, thrown off her bike. My mom was lucky to not hit her head, thanks to the helmet. However, she ended up breaking her right leg. Doctors said she would walk fine again after recovery and rehab. Mom just laughed it off, saying, "I'll be fine. Don't worry about me too much." Haha. Knowing that life with crutches would be tough, I began to visit Mom's house frequently. My Mel didn't like this at all because I wasn't home as often. She couldn't enter our house as she used to, and she held a grudge. Mom's recovery was going well, and she had started her rehab. I've been accompanying her for these rehab sessions. That day after rehab, Mom came to our house to visit my son, Jack. Just then, my Mel showed up at an inconvenient time. She's been holding a grudge against my mom for a while. On top of that, she had fewer opportunities to visit our home due to my frequent trips to help Mom. I was anxious my Mel might say something to my mom, and my fears came true. "Emily, long time no see. How's your leg?" my Mel asked in a funny way. Mom, not bothered, replied, "Thanks to everyone's support, I'll be off the crutches soon." That didn't sit well with my Mel, who sarcastically retorted, "Well, if you can't walk, why don't you just amputate it, huh?" Hey, Mel, what kind of comment is that? Mom has been working hard in rehab and will walk soon. That's extremely disrespectful. I snapped at my Mel. Unfazed, she responded, "I thought I was offering a good suggestion." Haha. I was livid and ignored my Mel, deciding to drive Mom home. In the car, I apologized to her. "Mom, I'm really sorry. My Mel is always like that. Don't let it get to you." "Why should you apologize? It's not your fault. Besides, I don't really care what she says. Let her talk." Mom reassured me. I couldn't forgive my Mel for her harsh words to Mom, who was going through a tough time. I kept thinking, I'll definitely get my revenge someday. And then, one day after a whole year had passed, the opportunity finally came. This happened exactly 1 year after my mom broke her bone. My Mel tripped and tumbled down the stairs from the second floor to the first. She made a loud thump all the way down. My Mel tumbled down the stairs with a loud thud, landing on the first floor. It was a day off, and both my husband and Jack were at home. We all rushed to the staircase and found Mel crouching at the bottom, clutching her left leg in pain. "Mom, did you trip? How's your leg? What happened to your leg?" my husband asked, concerned. Annoyed, Mel snapped, "What do you think happened? My leg hurts. Take me to the hospital now." Since she could talk this much, it was clear she hadn't hit her head. On the way, she kept mumbling, "This is definitely a fracture. Why did I have to fall down the stairs?" Once we arrived, she sat in a wheelchair as we waited for her examination. Diagnosis: fractured left leg, but with crutches, you can walk. And once the fracture heals, you can do rehab and walk just fine. It seems to be following the same course as what happened with my mom a year ago. Though I felt relieved, something popped back into my mind. It was those words my Mel had said to my mom. I never forgot it, and now was the time for payback. I vowed to exact my revenge when her rehab started. A month later, her recovery was acknowledged, and her rehab began. But Mill didn't seem interested in making an effort. Is she saying she's okay with never walking again? If she's okay with not walking, then she should just quit rehab altogether. I headed to my Mill's house with something in mind. I had confirmed that she would be home today. I needed a witness for today's events, so I asked Jack to come along. As soon as I rang the doorbell, Mill answered. "Oh, Jack, you came to visit Grandma? Thank you." Mill seemed pleased. I followed Jack inside. Jack spoke to Mill. "How are you doing, Grandma Linda? Keeping up with your rehab?" Caught off guard, she replied, "Yeah, I'm trying my best." We had already heard from doctors and therapists that she wasn't putting in much effort. "I've heard you're not really committed to rehab, Grandma. Does that mean you're okay with never walking again?" And no, that's not it. I do want to walk, but rehab is tougher than I thought. You understand, don't you, Jack? Jack shook his head. "If you really want to walk, you should work harder. Remember what you said to Grandma Emily last year?" "Jane, what did I say to her?" Mill seemed to have no memory of it. This further fueled my rage. Now it was my turn to speak to my Mill. "You told my mom, why bother walking anyway?" And joked to me, "Why not just amputate that leg?" Haha. Well, I'm giving you a taste of your own medicine now. Saying this, I pulled out a saw I'd prepared from home. "See this? I sharpened it just for today. Isn't it shiny?" As I flaunted the saw, I approached Mill. "You don't plan on walking again anyway, so let's just chop off that leg, shall we?" I said this to her with a crazed look and tone. Horrified, Mill screamed, "Stop! Please stop. I apologize for what I said last year. Just don't come any closer with that terrifying thing." I kept moving closer, considering she needed a bit more of a lesson. "Mill, how do you think my mom felt hearing your words last year? You think a simple sorry is gonna cut it? You also don't care about rehab, so you're fine not walking, right?" I then brandished the saw. "Stop!" Mill screamed. "I was wrong. I'm really sorry. I don't know what got into me. I'm really, really sorry. Can you say that in front of my mom?" I kept the saw raised as I asked. "Yes, I can. Please, let me." It sounded genuine, so I set down the saw, saying, "All right, we're going to visit my mom now. Is that clear?" "Understood." I finally lowered the saw and put it back into the bag. With a smile, I said, "Shall we head to my mom's house?" Then the three of us, me, Jack, and Mill, headed to my mother's house. The car ride was filled with silence. Then we arrived at my mom's house. I went in first, followed by Jack. Lastly, Mill shuffled in. My mom was quite surprised by the unusual trio. "What brings you all here today?" "Quite the odd grouping." Jack answered my mom's question. "Well, Grandma Emily, Grandma Linda has something she wants to say to Grandma Emily. Right, Grandma Linda?" Jack spoke to Mill, who was staring at the floor. Emily, I want to correct something I said to you last year." "Mill, that's not clear enough. And it's not a correction, is it?" I said, in a frosty tone. Eek. My Mill lets out a soft cry. Then she confessed, "Emily, I'm sorry. Last year, while you were in rehab, I said something awful like, why even bother walking? Why not amputate your leg? I deeply regret it. I apologize from the bottom of my heart." My mom laughed. "Oh, you still remember that? I'd completely forgotten." "Grandma Emily, you forgot. Mom has been talking about getting revenge ever since." "Oh, really?" I tend to let such snide remarks slide, but if you're apologizing, then I don't mind. Just when the person involved is this laid back. Where does that leave me? Although I felt that way, my mom was gracious enough to let it go, so I decided to do the same. Then my mom said something to Mill. "Linda, I don't mind the snide remarks you've made towards me, but what you've said to my daughter isn't so easily forgiven. How about reflecting on your actions right now?" It seemed Mill had no energy left to argue and, surprisingly, apologized right away. Perhaps, thanks to the earlier saw incident, my Mill might have had a change of heart. What happened next? Mill started taking her rehab very seriously, and when she visited our home, the harassing behavior towards me almost completely disappeared. She visited us as often as before, but without the harassment. My stress levels have dropped significantly. Plus, she started contributing to the grocery bills. I can't say for sure whether it's because of that confrontation or my mom's firm stance, but Mill has definitely changed for the better. My mom and Mill seem to be on good terms now. Mill can't go out much due to her ongoing rehab, but once it's over, they plan to hang out together. It was our family's wish for them to get along, so we're all delighted. As for us, since Mill stopped the harassing behavior, our lives have been more peaceful than ever since we got married. Even Jack doesn't needlessly dislike Mill anymore. We hope that this peaceful coexistence between Mill, my mom, and our family will continue, and we're all committed to making that happen.